What is up, and welcome to SGPN's The Daily Dog. This is a special edition for college football season-long picks on the Underdog Fantasy app. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy, sign up with promo code DAILYDOG, DAILYDOG at UnderdogFantasy.com or on the app. I talked about a couple of these on a weekly show last week, and I wanted to revisit some of the picks I mentioned and add another one. I fully fleshed out my thoughts on these, so I wanted to put them in one standalone spot so you're not hunting through day by day to figure out what I like for season long on Underdog. And I'm so excited. Football season is right here. It's a week away. At least at the time of recording, we're a week from week 0. So these numbers are still available, and you still have plenty of days to get these in if you are down to put your money away and watch it for the next, 3, 4, 5 months and see what happens. But again, college football is really near and dear to my heart. I mean, I'm wearing my Huskers shirt. Back in my day when I was in college, about 15 years ago, I worked for the football team. I did video. I filmed practice and games and traveled with the Cornhuskers when Bo Pelini was the coach. So I'm definitely familiar with the daily grind that these players go through. Obviously, I didn't have to go through the physical grind, but the summers at 6 a.m. getting to the stadium and me filming and them actually doing athletic endeavors, and then seeing the amount of time that these players had to spend in those offices, in those meeting rooms, and in that weight room, really opened my eyes, and it really it's helped me handicap college football because I saw the kids up close and personal while I was a kid. So my perspective was like, hey, practice is done on a Friday. These guys are all going to the team hotel before their game Saturday, and I'm like, I'm going to the frat party tonight. So that's why I give a lot of college kids a lot of slack when they don't always make plays, when they don't always perform like they're like the NFL guys you see on Sundays, because it's really a totally different animal, and these really are amateur athletes. I know a ton of them are making millions of dollars already with the new era of NIL. But you got to remember, think about when you were 18 and think about the level of commitments you had when you were 18. I'm sure most of you out there were not as committed to anything to the level that these kids are committed to their football programs, and it's a lot of stress and pressure for somebody who is really not an adult yet. Well, in some cases they are an adult, but we'll get to that later. All right, I'm going to go to Quinn Ewers first, higher than 325.5 passing yards throughout the season. I brought this one up earlier in the week. It was at 3,500 yards at that point, so it's gone up 25 yards. I still think it's fine. I mean, I'm pretty much good on this all the way up to 3,100 yards. I know that, Texas is moving to the SEC, so everyone is saying, oh no, better defenses, it's going to be harder to pass. 2, they had 3 receivers drafted this year. They lost Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell. So how are they going to replace those guys? Well, I've got news. They've got great news. They received transfers from 3 wide receiver ones from 3 different programs. They got Isaiah Bond from Bama. They got Silas Bolden and Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden from Oregon State, and Matthew Bolden from Houston, who were their wide receiver ones at their teams. And then they also have a couple 5-stars rising the roster as well. This is Texas. They're not short on talent, especially at the skill positions. So I think that there's going to be plenty of targets for Quinn Ewers throughout this season. Last year, he passed for 3,161 yards in the regular season, and he had taken a huge jump from the previous year. Obviously, he's closer to his ceiling, now that he's like a junior. But I think that, or now that he's going to be basically a third-year starter, he's closer to his ceiling, but that doesn't mean he still can't improve. He's going to be a man kind of amongst boys, and he started as a young guy. So he was once the boy amongst men when he was learning the ropes of college football. And again, I think that, so Steve Sarkisian, right? Hate him or love him, he can run an offense. He can run an offense that puts up yards. They don't always win games. They don't always, do everything perfectly. But the guy is good for a really good passing attack every year and a 1,000-yard rusher every year. I mean, I think since 2009, he's had a 1,000-yard rusher on every offense he's called. And then again, he's had quarterbacks in his systems that have performed for a decade plus. Bama, obviously at Texas with Ewers. So he knows how to get yards, and he knows how to attack defenses. And again, I don't think the cupboard is bare as far as pass catchers go. So I think Quinn Ewers at 3,025.5 yards higher is a good number. And then also just on the SEC schedule note, yes, they do have, it's an SEC schedule, so it's tougher than, the Big 12, I guess you could say. But I mean, it's not like they've got Georgia and Bama this year. Those guys are off the schedule. They play A&M at the very end of the year, which hopefully is a firefight. But also in the regular season, they're playing Vandy, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, teams that I think that they can beat with big passing plays. So again, I'm just not really worried about Ewers here. I think that he could get to 35 or 3,250, 3,300 yards this year and go over 30-25 fairly easily. I just think it's a lot of value in this line too, because there was a lot of off-season rumors. Maybe it's going to be Arch Manning's job. Maybe Arch Manning's is going to unseat Ewers. I think that can all be put to rest. I think Ewers has been running this system for a number of years now, and he is going to execute it again this year. And I think he should have no problem getting well over 3,000 yards passing, even in the SEC. Even though they have a non-conference game against Michigan this year. This isn't the same Michigan as it was under Harbaugh. I'm sure that Michigan will still be pretty good, but again, there's changes there, so you shouldn't chalk them up as a lock-up D right off the bat because we haven't seen it yet. Next, I'm going to Oronde Gadsden Jr., or Gadsden II. He is a tight end slot hybrid for Syracuse. His number's at 550.5 yards receiving. This number is so low because there's concerns about him getting injured again. In 2022, he had 969 yards receiving. Last year, he got injured in week 2 with a Lisfranc fracture in his foot, which is obviously a tricky injury that takes a lot of time to heal. I think he had a follow-up surgery in this spring. But every report I've read out of Syracuse summer camp or fall camp is he's moving like he was moving back in 2022. If he's moving like he's back in 2022, he's far and away the best pass receiving option on this Syracuse team. He doesn't even have to be that good. 550 is so low. And his new quarterback is Kyle McCord. Schrader's gone. That QB run heavy style is gone. McCord is much more of a guy that is a pocket passer, and he knows how to get the ball to his playmakers. He learned that at Ohio State. He passed to his his high school teammate and then college teammate Marvin Harrison Jr. a million times during his run there. So he definitely is not afraid to feed his playmaker. Gadsden is obviously not Marvin Harrison Jr., but he is the Marvin Harrison Jr. of this Syracuse receiving game. And I also think that Syracuse is going to be down in a lot of games this year. That means they're going to be passing to try to play catch up. And the best shot they have is going to be giving the ball to Gadsden. He's, like I said, he's their best pass receiving weapon on this team. If he can average, 55 yards per game, he's going to go way over this number. I think he can average 65, 70 yards per game if it goes according to plan with Kyle McCord targeting him as much as I expect. Next, we're going to another tight end. This one's more of a true tight end. We're going to Brant Kuithe of Utah, 7th-year senior. He, like his quarterback, Cam Rising, he's a 7th-year senior. He, has a COVID year. He's got a redshirt year. He's got a injury redshirt. So he is back for year number 7 of college football. Earlier, I talked about some guys are men playing in college football. This guy is one of them. I mean, he's old enough to rent a car, and he is playing college football still, as is his quarterback. His number is 500.5 receiving yards. So in 2019, as a sophomore, which is hilarious to say that in 2019 he was a sophomore, yet he's still in college football, he had 570 receiving yards, then had a redshirt year due to injury. Then in 2021, he came back with 534 receiving yards, then missed 2 years in a row, and now he is back. The band is back together with him and Cam Rising. And I think 500.5 is way too low because, obviously people downgrade Texas's offensive metrics a touch as they move to the SEC from the Big 12. I think that Utah is going to have way more big plays, and they're going to be able to spread the field out and pass a little bit more than they used to in the Big 12. Obviously, they're going to run for 1 million yards. I'm not expecting Kyle Whittingham to unroll the air raid or anything like that now that they're in the Big 12. But I definitely think that Kuithe is going to have a couple really big games that are going to do a lot of heavy lifting on this number. I mean, if he gets, if he has, again, this might seem a little bit bullish, but I think he can easily have 300-yard receiving games. If he has 300-yard receiving games, you need 200 in the other 9 games. I think that this number is way too low. I mean, obviously, an injury hurts you, right? And I should say that, when I started looking at these underdog numbers for season-long college football, I really wanted to find a bunch of unders because injuries help you out so much when you're betting unders in season-long markets. It's great. It's not great for the player, but if it's week 2 and you've got an under and the guy's out for it's 5 weeks, you know that you're going to hit your under. That said, these underdog numbers are actually very low, very palatable, and really are appealing for the overs because Kuithe can get over 500.5 yards even if he does miss a couple games. And that's the same thing with Oronde Gadsden of Syracuse. He can miss a couple games and get 600-700 yards receiving easily. As long as the target shares I'm expecting are even close to accurate, these numbers are way too low. So I firmly believe that there's going to be a lot of big plays available for Kuithe, and I really think that just the 7 years of being with Cam Rising is going to really help. He's the safety blanket, right? So he's been, when I say big plays for him, it's not like I expect him to be running, fade routes and sprinting up the sideline for 80 yards. But I do think on, those 3rd and 6s, he's going to be the guy getting 8 yards. So those add up over time, especially when the number is just 500.5 receiving yards for the entire season. All right, last one is another over. Again, I didn't really want to be playing these overs, but again, the ones that jumped out just as a pure handicap, right? You can't necessarily handicap injuries. You can't predict injuries. So just based on my expectations for these team seasons and the roles I see these players playing, I just think that a lot of these numbers are too low. And honestly, the thinnest one is probably the Quinn Ewers one. But again, I just think that there was a lot of fake drama with Arch Manning baked into that number. So I think that you can take advantage of that on the over. All right, last one, RJ Harvey, running back for UCF. 1,300 yards rushing last season. His number at Underdog this year is 900.5 rushing yards. People maybe don't expect UCF to be as good. They also brought in a big time 1,400 yard rusher from Toledo in Penny Boone in the offseason to split reps with Harvey. They also have KJ Jefferson, who's coming from Arkansas. He's going to be that running quarterback in the Reese Plumlee role. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of guys carrying the ball for this UCF team. That is not unexpected in a Gus Malzahn offense. There's going to be a ton of different guys, a platoon of guys carrying the ball on a game-to-game basis. Last year, Plumlee had 500 yards, another running back had 500 yards. RJ Harvey still had 1,300 in the regular season. So I think that this, again, is way too low. You're just fading. You're just hoping that he doesn't hit an injury because, again, I think easily by week 8 or 9, you can be willing to cash this ticket. I mean, there's a really good shot that he has a couple massive games. He's an explosive player. So he does have huge games where he, racks up a big chunk of these 900 yards you need in one afternoon. So again, I just think this is way too low. RJ Harvey has a track record of carrying the load. He might not need to carry the load as much this season. That might mean he's fresher for more big plays on a game-to-game basis. I think 900 is way too low for this guy. I don't think that he's still in school to perform worse than he did in his past year as the starter. So that is going to wrap it up for my season-long college football underdog picks. And again, I should point this out, that if you use promo code DailyDog, DAILYDOG at UnderdogFantasy.com or on the Underdog Fantasy app, you can get a 50% deposit bonus worth up to $250. If you're not someone who likes to play futures because you don't like to have the money sitting in your account for many months without you being able to touch it, use promo money. If you put $100 on, you get 50 for free. Maybe you make a couple slips by combining these 4 picks. Maybe you do 2 2s, 3 and a 4 with all of these and try to really run it up. It's promo money, so it's not like money's coming out of your bank account to make these picks, but you still get paid out just the same. So definitely recommend taking advantage of promos at Underdog and any other site you use. Because again, it is just so worth it, and again, it's kind of a cheat for getting in the futures market without having to actually take money out of your bank account. All right, that's all I've got today. Let's make some money this season.